Hey guys, welcome to the homework number 4 video. I am filming this on a Sunday morning right before the Packers game. You can see my jersey right here, so everyone get ready. Just kidding. But hopefully this video is helpful. Reminder that this is due on Tuesday for A days, Monday for B days. We're starting our review this week, so it's really important we finish up this homework before we get started. If I'm looking at this first one right here, I see it's -2 times, in parentheses, m minus 7. Remember that parentheses means multiplying. I'm going to look at this m. If I don't see a number in front, what's my invisible number I know I have to multiply? That 1. So I'm going to multiply. Again, if I have parentheses, I know I need to multiply this outside term by the first one and by the second one. Again, I can also use my box, and I know it's only going to have one row since I only have one term outside. So -2 times 1m minus 7. -2 times 1m. -2 times 1 is -2. I'm going to bring my m with me. Then I have a -2 times a -7. A negative times a negative is a positive, and 2 times 7 is 14. So my final answer is -2m plus 14. So if I look back to my directions, I see it says simplify. So I know that I'm not solving, I'm just simplifying, and I can't simplify any farther. I can't add these together, right, because they're not like terms, so I can't do that. Okay, this next one's a little bit tricky. I had a lot of questions about this last week. This one says -1 plus 2 times -5x plus 6. So I have this -2, or this -1. I know I'm going to add it with something. And I have this 2 times -5x plus 6. So I'm not quite sure where to start. What am I going to do? Do I know if I have to add these or multiply these? I have to think about my PEMDAS. And I know that I need to multiply and divide before I add. So I'm going to start with my multiplying. I'm just going to bring down this -1 plus because I know I'm going to have to do it later. I don't have to do it right now. So first I'm going to multiply. I have 2 times -5, which gives me a -10. I got to bring my x with me. And then I have 2 times 6, which is a plus 12. So now I have -1 plus a -10x plus 12. I'm looking for things I can add together, my like terms. So I'm going to say, where are my like terms? My variable's an x. I don't see anything else that has an x, so I don't think there's any like terms. Remember, like terms means there's the same variable and the same exponent. I don't see anything else with my variable of x, but I do see a plus 12, and I do see a -1. So to me, that tells me I'm going to have to add those numbers together. So a -1 plus 12, again, I can do that on my calculator. I'll show you guys again. I'm going to go to my calculator, pull it up. I'm going to take off my screen lock. Okay. So I'm going to go here. I have a -1, not minus, plus 12. It gives me 11. So again, even if you don't have a calculator, you can still use it. So I have 11 plus a -10x. Reminder that plus a negative is basically just a minus. So I'm going to say 11 minus 10x. That would be my final answer. Going to do a couple more. Let's start with this one over here. I have 1/3 n times n minus 8 over 5. I know that when I see those parentheses, it means I'm multiplying. And the only reason this one is scary is because I see fractions. So over here, I'm going to have my 1/3 n. I know if there's just an n, my invisible number at the front's a 1. So I'm going to put my 1n up here and my minus 8 over 5 over here. And I'm just going to multiply these together. So 1/3 times 1 is just 1/3. Remember, anything times 1 is the same thing. So 1/3 times 1 just gives me a 1/3. I have an n over here and an n at the top. So I have an n times n. I'm going to count them up. I know when I multiply my variables, I'm going to change my exponent. So n times n gives me an n squared. Then over here to the side, I have 1/3 n times -8 over 5. So this is the tricky part. I do wish I had a calculator, but if we're at home, we might not have one. So I know I'm taking 1/3 times 8 over 5. Now, if you paid attention in intervention this week, which honestly 50-50 shot if that happened, I know when I multiply fractions, I just multiply straight across. So 1 times 8 is 8. I have my dividing line, my fraction bar. 3 times 5 is 15. 1/3 times 8 over 5 is 8 over 15. I see there was a negative here. A negative times a positive is a negative. So I'm going to bring my negative 8 over 15. And I didn't have an n up here. I only had one here. So I'm just going to bring it down. So my final answer is going to be 1/3 n squared minus 8 over 15 times n. Not that bad. Just got to remember how to multiply those fractions. All right, remember, this next one's a little bit tricky, only because I have to distribute 2 different times. So I'm going to have to set up 2 different boxes and then add them together. So I have 9 times 3. Remember, if I have a minus, I know I have an invisible 1. 3 minus 1x plus 5. Invisible 1 again, plus 1. I'm going to multiply those together and then combine my like terms. So 9 times 3 is 27. 9 times a negative 1 is a negative 9. Got to bring my x with me. 5 times 1x gives me 5x. 5 times 1 gives me 5. So when I write it all out, I have 27 minus 9x plus 5x plus 5. I'm just bringing down what's in my boxes. I haven't changed anything yet. And then I'm going to look for like terms. So my 27 is just a number. Is negative 9x just a number? Nope, it has a variable. My plus 5x has a variable. My plus 5 is also just a number. That's going to be a like term. Now I'm going to look at this negative 9x. I'm going to do these in boxes. So I've circled just my numbers. I'm going to box off my ones that have an x. So this one just has an x, and that one just has an x. So I'm going to bring them down. 27 plus 5 is 32. Negative 9 plus 5 is a minus 4. And since I'm adding, I don't change my variable. I'm just going to bring down my x. Excellent. All right. I got 2 at the bottom. I'm only going to do this first one because it's going to help me out with the second one. So remember, this one looks a little bit different because I have 2 different sets of parentheses. I have 2 terms. I have a 3x and a plus 7 in this parentheses. And I have 2 different terms in this one. So I know I need to make a box or a row that has 2 by 2. So I'm going to draw my box. Need to make sure it has enough room. This is why I should not be in charge of drawing things. Okay. I know it needs to have enough room for my first set of parentheses to go at the top and enough room for both my terms to go on the side. So at my top, I'm going to do a 3x plus 7. On the side, I'm going to do a 2x plus 2. And remember, parentheses mean multiplying, so I'm going to multiply them together. So I'm going to start here. In my top box, I take 3x times 2x. 2 times 3 gives me a 6. X times x, I have 2 x's and I'm multiplying, so I know I have to change my exponent. Over here, I have a 2x times 7. 2 times 7 is 14. I got to bring my x with me. Over here to the side, I have 2 times 3x. 2 times 3 is 6. Got to bring my x with me. 2 times 7 is 14. I'm going to close that out over here. I'm just going to take what's inside my box. I'm going to rewrite it to the side. So I have 6x squared plus my top right is 14x plus my bottom left is 6x plus 14. I'm looking for like terms. I have an x squared, so I'm not thinking it's that one because I don't see any other that have a variable of x and an exponent of 2. Looking for my plus 14x, I also see a plus 6x, and I only see a number by itself. So I'm just going to bring down anything I don't have circled. I have a 6x squared. I know I'm going to have a plus 14. I need to add these together. So 14 plus 6 is 20. So I know that's going to be my answer. So work on this one. Remember, it's a 2 by 2, so that means I'm going to need a box. I want you guys to draw it in and try that one yourselves. All right, time to flip to the back side. I'm going to try and do it in one video. I'm going to do, let's see. I'm going to do this one, and this one. And then number 9 at the bottom. The rest of them are going to have to be for you guys to practice on yourself. But let's give it a try here. So again, my directions say simplify. There's no solving. Simplify again means I'm just combining my like terms. So combining like terms. Like terms have the same variable and exponent. And again, if I have a term that looks like this, my letter is my variable. My little baby number is my exponent. So I'm going to start here. These sets of parentheses, since I'm adding, whatever I have in front of my parentheses is going to be a 1. If I were to distribute a positive 1, what's 1 times anything? It's the same thing we started with. It doesn't really matter. So I'm just going to bring them down because my values are not going to change, and it's a little bit less confusing for me without the parentheses. All right, now I'm going to start looking for my like terms. So I'm going to start on my far left. I see a 1. My 1 does not have any variables, so any term that has a variable or a letter is not going to be a like term. So this plus 5x to the third power has a variable, so that can't be a like term. I see this plus 1 right here. That can be a like term. So I have 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1 gives me 2. Now over here I have a 5x to the third. I see that my minus 3x to the third, they both have an x. They both have a variable of 3. So I'm going to combine them together. So I'm going to say 5 minus 3. That gives me a plus 2. And since I'm adding, I have to bring that x to the third with me. So my final answer here is 2 plus 2x to the third. So again, when I'm combining my like terms, I know I have this x with the power of 3. I'm going to bring that with me. My exponent does not change because I'm adding and subtracting, and I just have to subtract those two numbers in front. So my 5 minus 3 is what gave me that 2 right there. Okay, this next one's a little bit better, but what do I notice is different? I'm not adding, I am subtracting. So when I'm subtracting, what's happening? If I see a minus, what's my invisible number behind that minus sign? It's a 1, and I know I have to start with multiplying because PEMDAS tells me multiplying comes first before I start adding. I have to distribute that minus 1 to all of my terms. So negative 1 times 4 gives me a minus 4a squared. Got to bring my a squared with me. A minus 1 times a minus 2a. So I have negative 1 times negative 2. A negative times negative is a plus. 1 times 2 is 2. Got to bring my a with me. Lastly, I have this negative 1 times a positive 5. A negative times a positive is a negative. 1 times 5 is 5. So I'm just going to draw a little line so we can keep that separate. I haven't done anything to this front part yet, right? So what do I do if I haven't touched it yet? I'm just going to bring it down. I have a squared plus 4. I just have that a squared. If I don't see a number in front of something I'm multiplying, my invisible number is a 1. So I'm going to keep that in mind. I have 1a squared. Then I have a minus 4a squared. 1 minus 4 gives me a minus 3, and I got to bring my a squared with me. Next, I see a plus 4. Plus 2a is not a like term because it has a variable, but that minus 5 is a like term. 4 minus 5 gives me a minus 1. And lastly, I have this little dude right here, my plus 2a. I'm just going to bring it down. This answer is absolutely correct. But I know that if I want to write it the most correct, I have to write my exponents from greatest to least. So my greatest exponent is 2. So I'm going to do negative 3a squared plus 2a minus 1. This is the most correct answer. I'm going to start solving this one for y'all again. I have that minus. I know there's an invisible one. So I have to distribute it. So negative 1 times 4 is a minus 4. Negative 1 times the 4x squared is minus 4x squared. And I'm just going to bring down my front numbers. It's up to you to combine these like terms. I'm going to leave the rest of you for these to do, or the rest of these for you to do, good Lord. I want to talk about how to set up this one. It says find the perimeter of a rectangle with length this and width this. So first thing I'm going to do is draw my rectangle. I know the length is this, 2x squared minus 4. My width is 2x squared plus 3. Perimeter. Perimeter means the outside of my shape. Outside means I got to add up all my sides. I might run out of time on this video, guys, and it might cut me off. Can I just add these two together? No, because this is only one side. This is a second side. I have 2 more sides I got to add in. So I know that my top and bottom are the same. I have 2x squared minus 4. On this side, it's going to be 2x squared plus 3. I got to add up those like terms. I got to add them up. So I'm going to do 2x squared plus 2x squared plus 2x squared plus 2x squared. And then 3 minus 4 plus 3 minus 4. Add those up. That'll give you your total.